Hello, dear listeners. The story I want to share with you today is about an unavoidable reality of human life, suffering, and the true comfort and protection we can find within it. Modern people live in a truly paradoxical era. While called the most prosperous and safe period in human history, depression and anxiety disorders are simultaneously reaching record highs. According to a recent World Health Organization report, approximately 280 million people worldwide suffer from depression, and this number continues to increase annually. We are connected to the entire world through a single smartphone, yet the number of people complaining of loneliness is growing exponentially. Medical technology has conquered countless diseases, but mental ailments seem to be deepening. This is precisely the comfort paradox facing modern people. Adding a somewhat cynical perspective here, modern society is the era of instant comfort. It's an age that creates the illusion that you can order happiness from online shopping malls with a single click. Self-help books top bestseller lists, and meditation apps are valued at billions of dollars. Yet our hearts are becoming increasingly barren. According to psychologist Martin Seligman's research, true happiness comes not from hedonistic satisfaction, but from eudaimonia, a meaningful life. This is a truth that ancient Greek philosophers realized 2,500 years ago, which we are still learning. So what is the comfort that the Bible speaks of? 2 Corinthians 1:3-4 calls God the God of all comfort, and says He comforts us in all our troubles. What's noteworthy here is not that He removes suffering, but that He comforts us in the midst of suffering. This remarkably aligns with modern psychology's concept of resilience. Resilience doesn't mean the ability to avoid difficulties, but the ability to rise again despite experiencing them. Like bamboo's flexibility that allows it to bend without breaking in a typhoon. The topic we'll explore together today is not simple comfort techniques or stress management methods. Rather, it's a journey to face the fundamental condition of human existence, suffering, and discover the deep comfort and true protection that can be found within it. Through this journey, we will comprehensively examine the mechanisms of stress and recovery revealed by modern science, the wisdom of ancient philosophers, and the spiritual answers the Bible provides. Like watching a documentary, we'll unfold this story sometimes coldly and analytically, sometimes warmly and comfortingly. Chapter 1. The nature of suffering, the fundamental condition of human existence. There is something no human can avoid: suffering. Buddha expressed this as, all existence is suffering. An existentialist philosopher, Kierkegaard, called anxiety the fundamental condition of human existence. Modern evolutionary psychologists explain this phenomenon differently. The human brain was designed for survival, so detecting and being alert to danger is its default setting. Neuroscientist Rick Hansen compared the human brain to Teflon for good things, Velcro for bad things. That is, good experiences are easily forgotten, but bad experiences are deeply imprinted. Adding a cynical perspective here, the modern self-help industry completely ignores this human nature. They say think positively and think only good things. But this is like telling someone to fly while ignoring gravity. According to psychologist Barbara Fredrickson's research, truly resilient people maintain a ratio of about 3-1 between positive and negative emotions. Balance is important, neither complete positivity nor complete negativity. The Bible accurately diagnoses this human condition. Job says, "Man is born to trouble," in Job 5:7, and Jesus clearly stated, "In this world you will have trouble," in John 16:33. This is not a despairing declaration, but an accurate recognition of reality. Interestingly, modern psychology's post-traumatic growth theory remarkably aligns with the Bible's perspective. According to this theory, developed by psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, Humans can grow in 5 areas through traumatic experiences. 1. Increased appreciation for life. 2. Deepening of relationships. 3. Awareness of personal strength. 4. Discovery of new possibilities. And 5. Spiritual development. This is like the hormesis phenomenon, where muscles become stronger through microscopic damage. The biological principle that appropriate stress actually makes organisms stronger. German philosopher Nietzsche said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." This isn't just a maxim, but a scientifically proven truth. However, what's important here is that not all suffering automatically leads to growth. For suffering to become growth, a process of interpreting and giving meaning to it is necessary. As Viktor Frankl realized in Nazi concentration camps, suffering is unavoidable, but our attitude towards suffering is a choice. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." This means God doesn't turn away from those who suffer, but rather draws closer to them. According to modern brain research, emotional pain and physical pain are processed in the same areas of the brain. Expressing the pain of heartbreak as heartache isn't just a metaphor, but an actual phenomenon. But simultaneously, the brain has plasticity, the ability to create new neural connections and heal. Understanding the nature of suffering is the first step to overcoming it. When we don't deny or try to avoid suffering, but accept it as part of human existence, we can finally experience true comfort and protection. Chapter 2: Modern Society's Comfort Industry and Its Limitations. Modern society could be called the golden age of the comfort industry. The self-help book market reaches $13 billion annually, and the meditation app market exceeds $5 billion. But has people's happiness index risen proportionally with this industry's growth? Unfortunately, reality shows the opposite. According to the World Happiness Report, economically prosperous countries actually show higher rates of depression and suicide. What does this mean? Adding a cynical perspective here, the modern comfort industry is like fast food. It provides instant satisfaction, but has harmful long-term health effects. Titles like "Stress Relief in 5 Minutes" and "Change Your Life in 10 Minutes a Day" abound, but true inner peace cannot be obtained so easily. One of the biggest problems with the modern comfort industry is individualization. It claims everything can be solved as an individual problem through individual effort. But humans are essentially social beings. Harvard University's Grant study, which tracked 724 men for 75 years, revealed that the most important factor determining happiness and health was good relationships. Social media creates another illusion of comfort. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg said he would connect the world, but actually more people are complaining of loneliness. MIT's Sherry Turkle called this the phenomenon of being alone together. Every time you click Instagram's like button, dopamine is released in the brain. This is the same mechanism as gambling or drug addiction. Sean Parker later confessed, "We intentionally created an addictive platform." Modern society's positive psychology is also problematic. While not denying the importance of positive thinking, unconditional positive thinking can actually be harmful. According to psychologist Julie Norham's research, people with defensive pessimism often actually achieve better results. The term toxic positivity has emerged. This refers to the compulsion to suppress negative emotions and always be positive. Words like think positively and be more grateful can actually be poison to wounded people. American psychologist Tim Kasser proved that people who pursue materialistic values are more unhappy than those who pursue intrinsic values. Yet modern society still presents material success as a measure of happiness. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos said he succeeded with the philosophy of customer obsession, not customer satisfaction. But this obsessive culture also affects personal life, making people constantly want more. This is called the hedonic adaptation phenomenon. The Bible had already foreseen this phenomenon. Ecclesiastes 1:2 says, "Meaningless, meaningless, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless." This isn't nihilism, but deep insight that ultimate satisfaction cannot be obtained through material things. Jesus said in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." What's noteworthy here is the expression, "come to me." Not alone, but together. Not through individual effort, but finding answers in relationship. True comfort is not instant. Just as good wine takes time to mature, comfort for the soul also requires time and process. Modern people find this difficult to accept, but this is precisely the truth. Chapter 3: Philosophical Approaches to Suffering, from Ancient to Modern. Humanity has wrestled with the problem of suffering since the beginning of civilization. Examining what answers great philosophers and thinkers of each era have provided can give us deep insights for living in the modern world. Ancient Greek Stoicism presented a very unique perspective on suffering. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This insight exactly matches the basic principle of modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Pain is just our opinion." This doesn't mean ignoring pain. Rather, it's a deep philosophical insight that our interpretation of pain influences our actual experience. Adding a cynical perspective here, many modern mindfulness programs don't properly understand the depth of ancient Stoic philosophy. An approach like, "just change your thinking," is far from the true teachings of Stoicism. True Stoic philosophy requires years of philosophical discipline and deep reflection. Buddhist philosophy presents another perspective. Buddha explained the nature and solution of suffering through the Four Noble Truths. 1. All existence is suffering. 2. The cause of suffering is craving. 3. The possibility of ending suffering. And 4. The method to eliminate suffering. Particularly, Buddhism's concept of impermanence shows remarkable similarity to modern psychology's acceptance therapy. When we accept that everything changes, our attachment to suffering also decreases. However, Christianity presents a unique perspective different from these. Beyond simply accepting suffering as part of the human condition, it views suffering itself as part of redemptive history. The cross is an event where God participated in human suffering. German theologian Jürgen Moltmann, through his concept of the crucified God, said that God suffers together with suffering humanity. This shows not observing suffering from the outside, but God who suffers together from within. Existentialist philosophers also provided important insights about suffering. Kierkegaard saw anxiety as the fundamental condition of human existence, but simultaneously expressed this anxiety as the dizziness of freedom. That is, anxiety is experienced because humans are free beings. Sartre said, "Man is condemned to freedom. Freedom can become a burden, not a blessing. But precisely because of this freedom, humans can give meaning to their suffering." Camus spoke of life as rebellion against absurd reality in the myth of Sisyphus. Though Sisyphus was condemned to eternally roll a boulder up a mountain, he could choose and give meaning to each moment. Viktor Frankl developed logotherapy through his experience in Nazi concentration camps. Quoting Nietzsche, he said, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." Modern philosopher Alain de Botton interpreted ancient philosophers' wisdom in contemporary terms in The Consolations of Philosophy. He argued that philosophy could become a practical tool for life, not just academic study. However, all philosophical approaches have limitations. Pure reason alone cannot heal deep wounds. According to psychologist Antonio Damasio's research, people with damaged emotional processing brain areas can think logically, but cannot make proper judgments. The Bible provides answers that transcend these limitations. Romans 8:18 says, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." This isn't mere philosophical consolation, but presents the foundation for hope that transcends history. Philosophy provides us with various lenses through which to view suffering, but ultimately, deeper comfort and healing beyond intellectual understanding are needed. Chapter 4: What Science Says About Stress and Resilience. First, we need to understand how stress affects the brain. When the stress hormone cortisol is secreted for extended periods, the hippocampus shrinks and the amygdala becomes hyperactive. This leads to memory decline and difficulty in emotional regulation. Stanford University's Robert Sapolsky detailed the destructive effects of chronic stress on the human body and mind in his book, Stress. But he simultaneously emphasized humanity's remarkable adaptive capacity. Adding a cynical perspective here, modern society spreads misunderstandings about stress. Simple approaches like "stress is the root of all illness" actually create stress about stress. Harvard's Alia Crom argued that beliefs about stress itself can have greater health impacts. Actually, stress has dual aspects. Acute stress actually improves cognitive ability and strengthens immune function. The problem is chronic stress. It's like muscle exercise. Appropriate stimulation strengthens muscles, but excessive stimulation destroys them. Research on resilience is even more interesting. University of Pennsylvania's Martin Seligman's team analyzed the brains of resilient people and discovered stronger connections between the prefrontal cortex and amygdala. This directly relates to the ability to cognitively regulate emotional responses. Research on how Buddhist meditation or Christian prayer affects the brain revealed that these areas are actually strengthened. Harvard Medical School's Herbert Benson presented the concept of relaxation response, a physiological state opposite to stress response, where heart rate and blood pressure decrease and stress hormone secretion reduces. Interestingly, methods that induce relaxation response almost exactly match methods used by religious traditions for thousands of years: repetitive prayer, meditation, hymns, breath control, etc. UCLA's Dan Siegel's mindfulness concept is also noteworthy. He argued that mindfulness can utilize the brain's neuroplasticity, the ability to change brain structure and function through conscious effort. However, scientific approaches also have limitations. Brain scans cannot completely capture the essence of deep human experiences like love, hope, and faith. It's like trying to understand Beethoven's symphony only through frequency analysis. Oxytocin, called the love hormone or trust hormone, is secreted in human relationships, alleviating stress and strengthening immune function. UCLA's Shelley Taylor explained that women's tend and befriend response to stress is precisely the influence of this hormone. This remarkably aligns with the Bible's emphasis on community importance. Ecclesiastes 4:12 says, "Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves." A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Telomere research is also interesting. According to Nobel Prize winner Elizabeth Blackburn's research, chronic stress shortens telomeres, accelerating aging. Conversely, activities like meditation or prayer have protective effects on telomeres. However, we must recognize science's limitations. Science can explain how, but cannot provide ultimate answers to why. Serotonin being secreted in the brain and experiencing joy are different dimensional issues. Romans 12:2 says, Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The expression renewing of your mind here is remarkably similar to modern neuroscience's neuroplasticity concept. Science tells us the mechanisms of suffering and recovery, but to apply that knowledge to life requires wisdom and practice beyond science. Chapter 5: The Mechanism of Spiritual Comfort, a Neuroscientific Perspective. The field of neurotheology, which scientifically studies what actually happens in the brain during religious experiences and spiritual comfort, is gaining attention. This new academic field is opening a window for us to scientifically understand the mystery of spiritual experiences. University of Pennsylvania's Andrew Newberg observed the brains of meditating Buddhist monks and praying Christians with SPE-CT scans. There was an amazing discovery. During deep meditation or prayer states, activity in the posterior superior parietal lobe significantly decreased. This exactly matches the oneness experience reported by mystics. Science has proven the reality of spiritual experience. But there's something to be careful about here. Adding a cynical perspective, some people conclude from such research that religion is just a brain delusion. But this is a very simple interpretation. Just because dopamine is secreted in the brain when we see someone we love, doesn't mean love itself is a dopamine illusion. Harvard Medical School's Herbert Benson studied Christian prayer. When praying while repeatedly calling Jesus' name, the stress hormone cortisol decreased, and T cells responsible for immune function increased. More interesting was that the depth of the believer's faith caused greater physiological changes than the content of prayer. This suggests the healing power of faith itself, different from placebo effects. Duke University's Harold Koenig systematically studied the health effects of religious activities. According to his research, people who regularly participate in religious activities have 40% lower depression rates than those who don't, and live 7 to 14 years longer on average. Of course, it's difficult to distinguish whether this is the effect of religion itself or because of social support from religious communities. But what's clear is that holistic approaches, including spiritual dimensions, have positive health effects. The effects of hymns and prayer on the brain have also been studied. When singing hymns, endorphins and oxytocin are secreted simultaneously. This scientifically explains why singing hymns together in difficult situations provides comfort. Bible memorization also has special effects on the brain. Repetitive memorization strengthens neural circuits in the brain, making it possible to automatically replace negative thoughts with positive content. This has similar effects to cognitive behavioral therapies, thought restructuring techniques. Tufts University's Dan Siegel presented the RAIN technique: recognize, allow, investigate, and non-identification. Interestingly, this almost exactly matches the pattern shown in biblical psalms. Looking at Psalm 42, David first honestly expresses his despair, as the deer pants for streams of water, allows that emotion, explores its cause. Why, my soul, are you downcast? And finally doesn't identify himself with that emotion, but places hope in God. Yet I will praise him still. Jesus' 7 last words on the cross are also noteworthy. Even in extreme suffering, he didn't use words of resentment or despair, but relational language like "Father, forgive them," and "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." UCLA's. Matthew Lieberman discovered that expressing emotions in language calms amygdala hyperactivity. What Jesus showed on the cross was precisely this principle. The difference between meditation and prayer is also interesting. Eastern meditation mainly focuses on emptying out, while Christian prayer focuses on being filled. Neuroscientifically, meditation suppresses the default mode network, while prayer activates the social cognition network. This explains why Christians feel a deeper, relationship with God after prayer. The brain processes prayer like actual conversation. However, scientific explanations cannot encompass everything about spiritual experience. The peace of God that transcends all understanding, mentioned in Philippians 4:7, has dimensions that cannot be completely translated into scientific language. Chapter 6: The Healing Power of Community and Relationships. Humans are essentially social beings. When Aristotle said, "Man is a political animal," he meant that individual completion is only possible within community. Modern science is proving this ancient wisdom more specifically. Harvard University's grant study is the longest-running happiness study in human history. Starting in 1938 and tracking 724 men for 85 years, it found that the most important factor determining happiness and health was good relationships. Robert Waldinger, who led the study, said, "Loneliness is as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Conversely, warm human relationships protect the brain from stress, delay memory decline, and strengthen immune function." Adding a cynical perspective here, modern society values individualism as the highest virtue. Expressions like me time, dating yourself, and personal space are packaged as if they were high achievements. But evolutionarily, humans are designed to fear group exclusion as much as death. Social media creates another irony. People with 1,000 Facebook friends can feel deep loneliness. According to Oxford's Robin Dunbar's Dunbar number, humans can maintain meaningful relationships with about 150 people, with intimate relationships limited to 5 to 10 people. The Bible early emphasized the importance of such relationships. In Genesis 2:18, God said, "It is not good for man to be alone." This isn't simply about marriage, but a declaration about fundamental human needs. Hebrews 10:25 also says, "Not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." Meeting together here wasn't just religious duty, but an essential element for human mental health. UCLA's Shelley Taylor discovered women's unique way of responding to stress. While men mainly show fight or flight responses, women show tend and befriend responses. This is due to the influence of oxytocin hormone. When women are stressed, they tend to get closer to others. This strategy was found to alleviate stress more effectively. The neuroscientific mechanism of empathy is also interesting. Italian neuroscientist Giacomo Rizzolati's discovery of mirror neurons makes us feel others' actions or emotions as our own. This explains why we hurt when we see others' pain, why laughter is contagious. More importantly, this empathic ability plays a key role in healing. MIT's Sherry Turkle pointed out in Alone Together that modern people are satisfied with superficial connections instead of genuine connections. Deep emotions are hard to share in SNS posts of 500 characters or so. In contrast, the Bible's concept of fellowship transcends simple social meetings. Acts 2:46 to 47 records that early church members broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. The expression sincere hearts here is important. True healing happens when we can remove our masks and share our weaknesses. Psychologist Brené Brown expressed this as the power of vulnerability. Forgiveness within community is also key to healing. Stanford's Fred Luskin proved that forgiveness reduces stress hormones and improves immune function. Forgiveness is a choice for one's own health, not for the other person. Jesus' command to his disciples to love one another in John 13:34 wasn't moral obligation, but a prescription for healing and growth. When loved and loving, humans finally become whole. However, not all communities are healing. Toxic relationships or communities can cause even greater wounds. The characteristic of healthy communities is viewing each other's weaknesses not as targets for attack, but as opportunities for growth. Galatians 6:2 says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." Here, burdens includes not just material burdens, but emotional and spiritual weights. True community shares individuals' suffering together, lightening that weight. Pain that cannot be borne alone becomes bearable when shared. Chapter 7. The true meaning of protection, safety, or growth. What modern people think of as protection and what the Bible calls protection are fundamentally different. Most people understand protection as a state without suffering or complete blockage from danger. But this understanding overlooks the essence of human growth. Psychologist Carol Dweck's growth mindset theory shows that people who accept failure and difficulties as opportunities for growth actually achieve greater success than those who try to avoid them. Biologically, this is clear. Muscles become stronger through microscopic damage, and bones maintain density only when receiving appropriate stress. This is called the hormesis principle. Moderate stress becomes medicine, not poison. Adding a cynical perspective here, modern society is addicted to safety first. Helicopter parents who prevent children from experiencing any dangerous or uncomfortable situations are increasing. But such overprotection actually weakens children's resilience. NYU's Jonathan Haidt analyzed the phenomenon of modern young people collapsing under minor stress in The Coddling of the American Mind. He called this conceptual safetyism. In contrast, the Bible's concept of protection is entirely different. Psalm 23 says, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." What's noteworthy is not keeping me from the dark valley, but you are with me. The story of Daniel's 3 friends is the same. God didn't protect them from entering the fiery furnace, but protected them by being with them in the fire. This is the true meaning of biblical protection. Evolutionary psychologists say humans constantly struggle between safety and growth. Safety guarantees survival, but limits growth. Growth enables development, but involves risk. Wisdom lies in finding balance between these two. Stanford's Kelly McGonigal suggested changing our perception of stress in The Upside of Stress. People who view stress as harmful actually experience health deterioration, while those who see stress as an opportunity for growth actually become healthier. This aligns with Romans 8:28. "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." All things here includes suffering. Norman Garmezy, called the father of resilience research, studied children who endured hardships and found they shared several characteristics. 1, to find meaning. 2, ability to form relationships. 3, initiative, and 4, sense of humor. Interestingly, all these elements align with values emphasized in the Bible. Meaning, from relationship with God. Relationships from community. Initiative from using God-given talents. And humor from the leisure that comes from ultimate hope. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio argued that emotion is essential for rational judgment. People with damaged emotional processing brain areas can think logically, but cannot make proper decisions. This means emotional pain isn't simply something to be eliminated, but a signal providing important information. Like physical pain, serving as a warning signal about problems. God's protection isn't wrapping us in bubble wrap. Rather, like a martial arts coach, he watches over us while giving appropriate challenges to make us stronger, ensuring we don't suffer fatal wounds. In Job, God told Satan he could touch Job, but not harm his life. This reflects this context. Not complete exemption, but limited permission. That is God's protection. Isaiah 43:2 clearly shows this. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. The key here is going through the waters and through the fire. Not avoiding, but passing through. That is the biblical concept of protection. True protection isn't isolating us from challenges, but helping us become stronger through challenges. Just as a butterfly that receives help emerging from its chrysalis becomes unable to fly, sometimes we must fight alone. Chapter 8. Building Spiritual Protection for Modern People. Based on the theories we've examined, I want to present specific methods for actually building spiritual protection. This isn't simple techniques or methodologies, but fundamental change through life attitudes and habits. First, we must build a meaning-centered life. The core of Viktor Frankl's logotherapy is finding meaning in life. According to modern psychological research, people with clear life purposes cope better with stress and have stronger immune systems. From a biblical perspective, humanity's ultimate purpose is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. When we have such transcendent purpose, daily small sufferings can be interpreted within a bigger picture. Adding a cynical perspective here, the purposes presented by many modern self-help books are mostly self-centered. Goals like achieving what I want and realizing my dreams can be temporary motivators, but don't provide deep meaning. True meaning comes from connection with something beyond oneself. Second, we must strengthen relational resilience. As Harvard's Grant study proved, good human relationships provide strength to endure all difficulties. But modern people tend to focus more on achievement than relationships. The Bible early emphasized the importance of relationships. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12 says, "Two are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor." What's important here is the expression, good return for their labor. Good relationships aren't automatically created. Third, developing cognitive flexibility, the ability to view the same situation from various perspectives. This is also a core principle of cognitive behavioral therapy. Looking at Paul's life, we find remarkable cognitive flexibility. In Philippians 4:11-12, he confessed, "I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty." The expression, "I have learned to be content," is important here. Contentment isn't an inborn personality trait, but a skill that can be acquired through learning. Fourth, strengthening inner muscles through spiritual disciplines. The various spiritual disciplines Richard Foster presented in Celebration of Discipline aren't simple religious rituals, but exercises like building soul muscles. Prayer is conversation with God, but simultaneously activates the brain's social cognition network, improving relational abilities. Bible reading is spiritual nourishment, but simultaneously changes thought patterns through cognitive restructuring. Fifth, cultivating habits of gratitude and praise. UC's Robert Emmons studied gratitude's effects on the brain. People who regularly express gratitude have higher serotonin and dopamine levels and reduced stress hormones. It's no coincidence that more than half of the Psalms consist of praise and thanksgiving. David commanded himself, even in extreme situations, "Praise the Lord, my soul." This aligns with modern psychology's discovery that emotions follow actions. Sixth, developing a post-traumatic growth perspective. Not all suffering automatically becomes growth, but suffering can be transformed into growth opportunities through proper perspective and process. Joseph's story perfectly shows this. He told his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, in Genesis 50:20. This is an attitude that neither denies suffering nor justifies perpetrators, while finding meaning within God's greater plan. Seventh, practicing staying in the present moment. Anxiety mostly comes from worry about the future, depression from regret about the past. When focusing on the present moment, we can find peace of mind. Jesus' teaching in Matthew 6:34. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own, is precisely this instruction. Finally, participating in communal healing. Individual spiritual discipline alone has limitations. Like Galatians 6:2's command to carry each other's burdens, heavy burdens become lighter when carried together. All these methods aren't completed overnight. Like building muscles, they require steady practice and patience. But what's certain is that when we build such spiritual protection, we gain the strength to withstand life's storms. Conclusion: transformation and hope through suffering. Thank you for joining me on this long journey. We have explored the most fundamental condition of human existence, the problem of suffering, from multiple angles. The truths we discovered through science, philosophy, and biblical wisdom are remarkably consistent. Suffering doesn't exist to destroy us. Rather, it's a tool to transform us into deeper and more mature beings. Like a sculptor using a chisel to shape rough marble into beautiful sculpture, life's suffering is a process that reveals hidden gems within us. The neuroplasticity revealed by modern science gives us hope. No matter how deep the wounds, the brain has amazing ability to create new connections and heal. But this healing isn't possible alone. It's only possible within relationships, within community, and above all, within relationship with God. Adding one final cynical perspective, modern society is addicted to quick fixes. But true healing and growth take time. While there's instant coffee, there's no instant wisdom. Deep change requires patience and perseverance. The Bible's concept of comfort and protection may differ from modern expectations. But that is precisely the message that gives true hope. God's love doesn't keep us from suffering, but stays with us in suffering, molding us into more complete forms through that suffering. I want to conclude this long journey with Romans 8:18. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. This doesn't mean taking suffering lightly. Rather, it acknowledges suffering's weight, while declaring that there is greater hope that transcends it. It's a promise that no matter how great present pain may be, the glory to be revealed will cover all of it. I earnestly hope you have such hope in your lives. Courage not to give up in the midst of suffering, strength to rise again in moments of despair, and above all, assurance that you are not alone. I pray that God will be with you, transforming all suffering into opportunities for change and growth. And I hope you become channels of blessing through which the comfort and protection you've experienced reaches others. Thank you.